Alright, man. Start by saying all praises to Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem HaRakah. Double wonders unto the apostles and elders of the great millstone and well. And shalom to the whole elect.
Shalom.
Shalom. To the elect of Israel. Alright?
Let me,
Yeah, go ahead and kick it off. My head is dehydrated from this prolonged conversation we had, man.
oh, just make a noise. No. Alright. Let me just read this. Matthew 1:21. And she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Yahushua, for he shall save his people from their sins. I just wanted to start off on that. This fucking clown that came up at the, at the camp. Because the whole, this thing with this word, thing with this truth is this is for a real small number, man. And this is when we're even counting, because you got Israel, Jacob, the 12 sons of Jacob. That's the 12 tribes, that's 12 nations there. Then even among them, there's just going to be a small select number that are going to have this thing for them, man. And that's who really Yahushua went up on the cross for. For the, for everyone else, for those that aren't including that elect number, they're going to have to taste the second death. But this thing, this word is only for a small select number. And that's who, the Lord basically had mercy on, like preordained and set like a portion of souls. Like, these are going to be the ones. And that's the kind of thing we're dealing with. It's for small, it's for a little sanctuary. And that's the thing. You go to where the root of all these modern day religions, what does it go back to? It goes back to that Catholicism, that universal, that basically, universalize, trying to universalize the scriptures. For what? For filthy lucre's sake. That's really what it's been for. It's for, and as well when you go into, what's it called? The Book of Eli, when you go into the book of the movie The Book of Eli, it shows it well how the scriptures is used as a form of control, man. They'll basically, it's not really even teaching the truth that's in the word, but then just utilizing, the scriptures to then with maliciousness, as a form of control. And that's what you have in this modern day Christianity. That's what you have in all these religions, is where it's, you got people hooked on certain things where they're just all up into certain mentalities, man. And that's why, even going back to the Greeks way back in the day, them man, let me get on Maccabees. What is it? 4 and 10.
One and 14, I think it is.
Is it 14 or
Something like that.
Oh, what? And I was thinking about laid open the book of the law.
Oh, it's 3 and.
Is it? Oh, okay, 3 and 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
First Maccabees 3:48, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint a likeness of their images. Yeah. So, that's from back in the time of the Greeks. They were painting their image within the scriptures, and that's the thing that you have now, where Job 9:24, they cover the faces of the judges. You saw when he got the rule, that's one of the key things he did. He covered the faces of the judges, to where when the scriptures are being taught, everyone's having an image of a so-called white man. They have the Sistine Chapel, that painting on the top where you got Adam, who's meant to be Adam, the so-called white man, who's meant to be the Most High, so-called white man. And then that thing, is basically like all the artwork that was created was basically Esau overlaying his image, man, onto the scriptures, to everywhere you go. You pick up a children's Bible, pictorial Bible anywhere, all you're going to have is a bunch of white images, man. Now, more recently, you've had, shows being made within maybe the last 10 years, where you have certain men in the scriptures depicted as men of color, but this is real brand new. Because you even go to like what was it? The Passion of Christ. What 2004? I think that came out. I think 2004. Like mid 2000s. That came out. You know, so-called white images. So that's something that's stayed, and it's really through the spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, Hashem Harakal Kadash, that it's like, you know, the scales and the eyes and the truth's been coming out. You know, bringing lies to Esau's words, and that's why. But then it's not fully broadcast, because even when we deal with Yahweh Shai, it's outlined in the scriptures, his description. But then that's why it's lies still abound, because why? People aren't really dealing with a book; they're just dealing with you know, the dogmas, the doctrines that have been pushed out by Esau. And that's why, you know,
Go a quick precept. Isaiah 45:17. But Israel shall be saved in the Lord Yahweh with an everlasting salvation. Ye shall not be ashamed nor confounded, world without end. And that's really off the half the hills of Matthew 1:21. Because the Heavenly Father throughout the whole Bible was only dealt with the children of Israel, alright? And they're the only people he always dealt with. Even like the individual with the camp, he spoke of, and this is where it shows you how much of a fool he is, because he said, yeah, we're now spiritual Israel. Why are you not still an Edomite, but the Lord has given you the understanding? Why are you now spiritual Israel? Because you know that the Bible only talks about Israel, and that's the only way you can find your way in. You can't find no scripture where it just says, yeah, if you're of the heathen nations, now you can participate. Because when you go to the book of Revelations, the 7th chapter, it tells you about the elect of the nation of Israel being sealed from all the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. Mm-hmm. Right? It speaks of the Lord coming for the children of Israel. And that's the prophecies about the kingdom of heaven coming down for the children of Israel. The kingdom being within the children. When you go throughout the whole Bible, that's what you find. Alright? But that's why it says, you know, I'll read it one more time. It said what it said. Isaiah 45:17. But Israel shall be saved in the Lord Yahweh with an everlasting salvation. Ye shall not be ashamed nor confounded, world without end. And that's the thing that's being shown right now. We ain't being confounded, nor are we ashamed of this faith. That's why when you have scoffers come, or people try and come up against us and say, oh, you know what you're saying ain't true, and this, that, and the other. The word, surely enough, you know, cuts them in two, man. Alright?
And that's the origin, you know, the headings of everything is the word, is the scriptures. Because that's where it all comes from. And that's why it's hey, Esau's, all his shit that he's produced is from outside the scriptures, man. He's basically gone into his own mind. He's gone into his own heart. As these vain imaginations, that's what's out, out in the world, and everyone's buying into it. Because why? Because he has a rule, man. He has a kingdom. Just as why Nebuchadnezzar, when he had his image set up, everyone was bowing down to it like he was a god on earth. Because why? Because he had the rule. He was basically set up in that position. Let me read this. Yeah. One sec. John 8:44. Ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. Yeah. That's why you have Jake, a bullion wholesale they're they're going in hard in Edomites for Esau's kingdom. Because why? These guys they've bought in completely, and they're essentially adopted sons of Esau, man. They're completely integrating. It's the same thing that happened back in the time of the Greeks. It showed a lot. It showed the template. You had Jakes going off, joining themselves onto the heathen, following after heathenish customs, and completely disregarding their heritage. And that's the same thing you have going on now. You got Jakes that their favourite meal is going to be pork chops and a bacon sarnie. And that's what we're going to be into. They're going to be going every fucking Wednesday and Sunday. They're going to be going to the footy. They're going to be doing absolutely any and everything to integrate into this place. Because they're looking at themselves like they're so-called British. When they signed the census, they put black British. Because why? Because even though Jake is trying everything to join on to these heathen, these guys Esau still don't like Jake, man. And that's how it's gonna be. It says what? And because I tell you the truth, ye believe me not. Yeah. And that's the thing. What did I was trying to say? It was like a prophet has an honor in his hometown, man. Jake is so I can read it. I think it's John 1. He went out to his people and they received him. John 1 and 11. Well, John 1 and 9. It says, that was the true light which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. Yeah, that's Yahweh. And it's the same thing. It's what if they've called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more so the servants? And that's how it's going to be. Just as Yahweh wasn't received by these Jakes. Same thing is going to be with us as well, with us that are following after and teaching His name, just as it was with the apostles after Yahushua was caught up in the clouds. They went out teaching. It was the same controversy, the same spirit of controversy as when Yahushua was on the scene. And that's the thing is that's when you deal with the scriptures, when you're dealing with the truth, when you're dealing with the word. This thing is not palatable to the world. That's why it's like if you're going to be moving in the world and there's going to be no friction, no resistance, you're able to just operate in the world and live good and do what you're doing. That means you're really in the spirit, like in the spirit of Yahushua.
Quick precept. Matthew 10:34. Think not that I am coming come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace but a sword. For I have come.
Yeah, no, I'm coming to send peace but a sword. That's the thing is what Yahushua is doing is a complete opposition to this world as it runs now. When you go into Ezekiel 9, I'm thinking of those that are sighing and crying for the abomination to be done in the midst thereof. That's why. It's Yahushua ain't come here to keep this place going, to big it up, to establish America forever, the American system forever. Then what's going down?
Verse 35. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's foe shall be they of his own household.
Done. Yeah, that's it's contention. That's the spirit of Yahushua. It's contention. Because even Yahushua from his own household, there were those that weren't in agreement with Yahushua. That's how cold it is, and that's how it's the same thing. If you come in, you can come in. There'll be members of your family where they'll be contentious against you, man. Contentious against the word. Contentious against the truth. But then what? You basically got to be like, hey, it's either you ride for Yahushua or you're an enemy. And that's really as cold as it is. That's the thing with the truth. It's like if you're in agreement, if you're on the same company as the world, then the truth can't be in you. This is a thing where it's like you've got to be coming out of the world, and you've got to be basically, teaching teachings go completely against this world as it operates. And that's just how it is. That's why it's called. And the key is like one of the most biggest factors of that is Esau, man. Esau is a big point of contention, man. You'll have, dark-skinned, tar black Jakes coming up worrying about if Esau's gonna make it. Because why? These guys they're all bought into the system, man. Esau is their god, man. Esau's their power. Esau's who they reverence. Esau's who they look up to. Esau's all that they mold and model themselves after. But okay, if you're moving like that, then what? Okay, where's the kingdom of heaven come into that? But hey, that's as bugged out as Jake are today, man. And that's why Esau is emboldened as well. Because he's it's wild as hell that in living memory, you still got Jake that were getting the most resistance from Esau. They were getting the most legendary forms of racism from Esau, getting assaulted, getting all that, and they're still just trying to find some love, man. They're just looking for that equality. But that's the thing, is with it, women dealing with Yahweh Hashem Yahshua Hashem HaKadosh. That's just not, as far as for Israel and Esau, they're like those two are never meant to just be standing side by side, linking arm in arm, and and like working like that. That's just not how these things go. Psalms 2 and 8, it says, "Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron, thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel." So that's the nature of the relationship that Yahweh Hashem Yahshua has between Israel and Esau. Esau's going to be a possession, man. Esau's going to be an inheritance. He's going to be a resource that's gained and utilized by Israel, just as Esau's done. That's the thing as well. It's like with Esau, as Esau's eased up on having that tight reign of control, physical reign of control over Jake. Now it's all the talk is like, we just need to all just be friends and just get on. Don't think about all the bad stuff that happened. Just look, you're able to move on with your life, blah blah blah. But in reality, that's BS. Because some men are starting, a full head and shoulders above you in the race. Because why? One set of people owned another. What was it? Oh. Yeah, Joel. You got anything?
No. I do have. No, not right now. You got time.
Yeah, Joel frame 3. "And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine, that they might drink. Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palestine? Will you render me a recompense? And if you recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head." Yeah, that's. This is the heritage of Jake's role and position within the Western world. Is basically, as Esau's gained his control, then what he put, came over, slaughtered the Northern Kingdom, then put the Southern Kingdom in that hardcore bondage. And that's taking them from Europe, taking them from the west coast of Africa, and it had them getting smashed and destroyed to the point where they ceased to have a heritage, in America. And that's that's what's gone down. You watch, Esau still documents it in movies, TV shows, all that, going into detail on how these things went down, how fucked up, the circumstances Jake were going through. You watch that shit will remind you, of how you should be feeling towards Esau, and that's really what it is, because that's the thing is, and it's Pete, like it's said in what do you call that? Like it was said in where it's read in Psalms. Ask of me and I'll give you the heathen for thine inheritance. The heathen it's gonna have to be returned, because why? That it needs to be balanced out. That's the other thing. It's what that's at the present state where we're in, is like Esau has done all forms of madness and wickedness upon the earth. He's gone and laid hands on the apple of the Most High's eye, the children of Israel, so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. And there's been no recompense yet. This is why this guy is so emboldened. This is why he feels so just at ease doing what he's doing. But then it's like, okay, so then what like is like how long are you thinking that's gonna run for, man? How easy do you think this is gonna be? But then that's the thing. When the judgment comes, it's gonna be cold. There's gonna be no justification of, oh, but I didn't. Nah, it's gonna be it's a wrap. And that's the thing. It's like, what did it say? Yea, and what have you to do with me, O Tyrians, I done, and all the coasts of Palestine? Will you render me a recompense? And if you recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return the recompense upon your own head. There's a lot of. It's funny as well, because I was on YouTube and I got recommended a video about slavery in the Arab world, and I was like, a lot of these countries, the parts that they played in the slave trade, those things weren't really well known. Remember, you bring out the slavery in the Arab world book, and people would be like, "Wow, I didn't know that. That's so interesting." But that's the thing. Is these things, as far as they're looking at, they're just like, "Oh, that's done away with. That's just old musty history." But when we go into Second Peter, find out a day is 1,000 years with the Most High. So that means that these things, they're it's a real short period of time, man. If you think about something that pissed you off like 12 hours ago, they ain't very long ago. So that's the thing, is with these things, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua Hashem HaKadosh, he's looking to exact all that vengeance. And that's the thing. A lot of what this judgment is, it's gonna be the Most High releasing, basically venting upon the heathen. Let's see.
I'll go a quick one.
Okay.
This is Isaiah 45 and 14. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, the labor of Egypt and the merchandise of Ethiopia, and of the Sabians, men of stature, shall come over unto thee, and they shall be thine. They shall come out after thee in chains, they shall come over, and they shall fall down unto thee. They shall make supplication unto thee, saying, Surely the Most High is in thee, and there is none else. There is no power, no other God, or no God. Verily, thou art a power that hidest thyself, O power of Israel, the Savior.
Yes, good. Good.
No, go ahead.
I'm saying it's gonna be cold. It's gonna be irrefutable, and that's what. Because now it's the time where, especially because all on the left hand side, these guys are going wild. They're being indulged, so they're really feeling like, and that's why you have Isaiah 47, where it's what, stand now with thine enchantments, the astrologers, the stargazers, all these different powers Esau's tapping into. He's having a run of it. But that's the thing, is those things they're coming through the left hand side. When it comes for the time for that to end, and the same thing you saw in Egypt, where you had Aaron and Moses would do certain miracles, then you'd have the Magi's of Egypt. Them guys would emulate certain ones to a certain degree, and it was like, okay, yeah, cool. You know, they were able to run things to a certain extent, but then when it comes once that all gets put to an end, it's like when the what do you call it, man? The firstborn of Egypt, man, the Passover. That when that happened, there was there were no emulation. It was done. It was a wrap. And that's how it's gonna be. It's gonna be the same in this time, man. Where Esau's everything seems to be running smooth, and that's the thing, is it says in Job when he's about to fill his belly, Esau's gonna have certain parts of his new world order plan instated. The mark, that implantable chip, that's gonna be instated. You're gonna have hella people taking that, man. The way people are moving now, you can see these things are gonna be moved swiftly and accepted and taken up. But then what? It's all after a certain point. It's gonna come to an end, and then it's gonna be about righteousness. It's gonna be about, Yahweh shall return and the angels, the chariots, the elect, man, salvation. That's what's gonna be going down. Because it's the time of Jacob's trouble. Esau's gonna be allowed to run rampant. You can see the build up to it. All these all these natural disasters, all these different circumstances, Esau's able to capitalize. I remember it's funny, whilst you've had, or maybe it was the same day, I can't remember if it was like the day before, but you had like the UN report saying with climate change that there is like, it's imminent, it's almost at the point where it's going to destroy humanity, blah, blah, blah. You need to do something. And the thing with those reports is no one gives a flying fuck about those reports until they're being utilized in some form of, political power grab. And that's how they're going to be utilized. They're going to be saying like, okay, well, because of the dangers of X, Y, Z, then okay, you're going to have to jump on. You're basically going to have to. We're justified in doing this, and that's how Esau gets down. It's what is it I was looking for? Daniel 8. Daniel 8:25, and through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. I remember Craft. There was that movie in like the late 80s, late 90s. The Craft. It was about 3 witches, man. And I remember there was hella films coming out about witches in like the 90s.
Charmed as well, series.
Yeah, Charmed, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which they really did. There was hella. It was like they were pushing that vibe out, and that's the thing, is that's something Esau leans into, man. You go on YouTube, you'll find just random little witches in every corner and cubbyhole of YouTube, man. They're all about. You got into the like here in the UK especially. You got into the sticks. You got into some Cornwall. You got into some Devon. You got into what's the one in thingy? I can't remember the name. But in the Midlands, man, it was Milton Keynes. But there's someone. You got into Leamington Spa. You got to all these places. You're gonna find little groups in the woods getting together, doing all them pagan practices. That's the thing, is for Esau, that's in complete alignment with his spirit. He's just like, hey, you will get into some wickedness. He'll be perfectly comfortable just getting all into that left hand side. But then what? It's all those. It's only gonna run so far. It says what? Cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. Yeah, by peace, destroy many. Because that's the thing, is all like when Esau's a wily, subtle, the most subtle creature, man. This guy's, when he's moving with destruction, this guy can justify all forms of whatever the name of a policy is in government. It's not going to be representative of what's going down. It's not going to be called the family destruction mandate. It'll be called Planned Parenthood. or even Planned Parenthood. What the fuck is that? That says the baby murder machine, and that's Planned Parenthood. But that's how Esau gets down. He's subtle. He ain't just gonna straight out come out and just be like, okay, well, this is what it is. Because it's why it's easily just lull people in to the trap. And by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. Yeah, he's gonna stand up against Yahushua. He's gonna be completely like ground into dust. That's all that resistance Esau's planning, and that's the thing. I think I saw an article yesterday about how the Space Force was saying, oh, they need to get more serious about defense against UFOs. And I was like, people are, it's funny as hell. People, like, they revealed, Pentagon released the document on, talking about chariots and whatnot. And they said, yeah, we can't confirm, it's not a thing, it had all the sightings and whatnot. It was basically letting people know, like, hey, look, you gotta watch out for this. But, people are taking it lightly. But then it's Esau's preparing, man, because he knows what the deal is. It's for the sake of prophecy, because it's not going to work out in his favor. But that's who he's designed, and it's the same thing with. And it's all them coming together. You can see it happening because it's not just America that's weaponized in space. It's Russia, China as well. I think even India's trying to get some shit into space. Because why? Because that's Esau. Well, you have the speech from was it Reagan, the one where it was like, what if a force? What if was it a force? No, he said something. What if a threat was to come, from outside the world? Then it was like everyone would have to come together, and that's something you see in movies all the time. There, that come together spirit, where it's, that Independence Day ID4 is the the biggest one you can just go to, where it's like you have the chariots burst through the clouds, zap up all the main spots, and then afterwards it's like all the last little scrappy remnants of humanity all come together to come against these super advanced aliens, and the power of humanity coming together. No, but that's complete BS. It's the same thing with they do it with like the UK with the US military, where they kind of make it like, okay, you're going out, you're fighting for the interests and concerns of the country, or for the people, or for the good, for goodness in the world. But in reality, you're just following the business interests of those at the top. You're out there as the muscle behind their business interests, man. That's what is really going down with the militaries. They ain't going out there. That's why you look at what's happening now after the whole, I don't know how it was like fucking the 90s. It's like Afghanistan, it's like more than 20 years. Might have been that war in Afghanistan. Absolutely hilarious. So they got the cheapest poppy fields from all the opioids. I believe that's why you had a swing up in opioids in the US, because they were getting hella cheap shit from Afghanistan, and then now that they've rinsed it, it's just like, okay, we're fucking off. Bro, I saw an article today that said like, oh, the Taliban's taking back 3 different towns. Yeah. In like
they're going door to door raping, taking little young girls to rape them and that.
Yeah, the man are just it's just like, okay, but thanks guys. Thanks for letting us know exactly when to invade it and just take over. It's like, man, I thought the whole thing was to bring, democracy and freedom and blah blah blah. But then they just fucked off. So it's like, I saw another one. They said like India is, they left their what's it called, embassy or whatever in Afghanistan, and just got all their stuff out of there. And there's a few of them that have done that. They said like, yo, just get us the fuck out of here. Because why, that's going to shit. It's like with Libya, man. Them man just dumpy the thing. So, okay, install whatever government and just give us what we need. And that's how Esau gets down. This is what it is, you know. All that coming together is BS, man. It's every, you know, when they all come against Yahweh Shai, it's gonna be extensive judgment, man. And that's what's going down. That's the reality of you know, of how things are playing out. Because the main thing Esau's done, Esau's control, it's like went into at the beginning image. Esau's got people's perception, man. He's got them drunk on. People grow up, they watch Hollywood, they watch cartoons, they watch all these different things that basically indoctrinate them into Esau's his moral structure will basically have you think like the way you're thinking is just gonna be molded by the times. Because there's things that Esau teaches that you go back to the ancient world, that shit will be a myth. And that's all that indoctrination that basically gets you in a mindset where you're deifying this place, man.
Nah, for real.
You got something?
Nah, I haven't.
I think I had something that I didn't. Yeah. It was on a previous point, but I guess I get. Jeremiah 51. And 19. The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. Yahweh of hosts is his name. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war, for with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms. Yeah. That's the thing, is Jacob is going to be a tool utilized by Yahweh B'Hashem Yahshua B'Hashem HaKadosh to bring about his you know, his revenge, his desires of judgment going out on the earth.
And really, they already are being used as a tool. Because what you said, they're going to be used as a tool to bring forth his vengeance on the earth. That's basically Jeremiah 16 and 16. Because it goes into the Lord sending us forth as fishers first. And that being the beginning of things. But in the end of it being that we'll be sent forth as hunters to do, as it tells you in the book of Ezekiel, how's it worded? They shall, according to mine anger.
Yeah.
And I know that's what's in the end of it. They shall do according to mine anger. So, yeah. So ultimately, that's what's gonna happen. But right now, really, the Most High is setting it where it's like, look, He's letting you be known, like Aaron did with Moses going before Pharaoh, and saying, look, let my people go, so they can serve their God in the wilderness, because Israel is his firstborn, and that's really what the Lord was trying to do, man. I mean, it's lucky my mind's straight, but that's really what's gonna happen, as the brothers mentioned, that we're basically gonna bring forth the vengeance of the Heavenly Father upon the earth, man. Not by our own will, not by no silly. That's not our blessing.
Some carnal means.
That's not our blessing. Is the weapons of warfare, not carnal words. These words that we're speaking are spiritual words. We're speaking. I was gonna say we're speaking into existence, but it's already in existence. It's already happened.
Yeah,
it's already been seen. The prophets saw it and wrote it down, and now we're just reiterating it, and it's gonna come. It's gonna happen. All right, and that's the power in it. Because if and when the Esau rounds us up, and whatever brothers it is, and say like, oh, you're teaching this, that, and the other, then it's like, well, you believe what we're saying then. Because we're saying that the Heavenly Father's going to come back, send his son back in a UFO. So you're saying you believe that's true.
You give it, if you having to take action,
in it.
That's significant. That's why it's like even the videos getting swatted.
Yeah.
Already know, and that's been from 2008. That's been a theme. So yeah, I got a bit more. Okay, let me skip down. So, verse 24. Jeremiah 51:24. Now I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all the evil that they have done in Zion in your sight, saith the Most High. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith Yahweh, which destroyest all the earth, and I'll stretch out mine hand upon thee, and roll thee down from the rocks, and will make thee a burnt mountain. Yeah, that destroys all the earth. I mentioned earlier, it said like, oh, you know, the world is almost at a point of no return with, you know, the climate change. It's funny, I was listening to a video this morning. It was talking about the use of pesticides and herbicides and all these different chemicals within the soil, and how that's basically like over the long term just fucking been obliterating people, and why people have been getting even more jacked up, man, and why the food as well doesn't hold the same strength or value as it used to, and that's something is evidently known, man. Could you go back? Oh yeah, it was dead bread to father among the heathen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was even gonna say like back in what was it, Exodus, about the grapes, 2 strong men.
Yeah, numbers.
That's what I was saying. I was like, yeah, books of Moses.
2 men to carry a
cluster of grapes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the earth has lost all kinds of strength. But then it's like, it's funny because in America, the guy was breaking it down. He said America, you had the Dust Bowl, where basically because they tilled the ground into non-existence. Then you had the Dust Bowl, where essentially it was that the soil was done. Like that shit was getting blown over. There was no one was able to grow shit, or barely able to grow anything in most places, and that just destroyed people's livelihood. People couldn't eat shit. And then you had it run like that for a little while. Then they brought back crop rotation, things that basically were done in the ancient world, done for thousands of years, because that's how you're meant to deal with the earth. There's certain land Sabbath and whatnot, these things that weren't being reverenced and adhered to. Then you know everything goes to shit. So they said basically that was being done, but then you had World War II, and then I think it was petroleum. They said from basically from oil, they were able to get like nitrates or whatever the original thingy is called, fertilizer, something, ammonium nitrate I think it's called, and then they realized they can put that in the soil, and that will essentially work. You know, it will, even if the soil ain't got no strength in it, it will basically force it to do what it needs to do. Then they discovered things that's like, even if the plant ain't got the strength in it, they can force it to, like, you know, to grow, to you know, to basically come to fullness. And it's like, so you do it, it looks like you know, the same thing. It looks like it's got, you know, the nutrients and whatnot, but then that's all that's missing, because it ain't there in the soil. And it's funny because that's why it's like, even when man was made of the dust of the ground, it's like from the earth, that's where all these different nutrients that they go into all different forms of foods, and then you're meant to be intaking that, and that's meant to be how you're sustaining yourself. So that most basic understanding was destroyed, and why? Because of greed.
Big time, man.
Because it's like, that's why it's like, you eat food. Why the fuck are you taking like supplements? Niggas out here eating crunching on pills to get the actual things that are meant to be the goodness in the foods. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's the shit's a mess. But then they're saying because of them putting the ammonium nitrate, there's like a long term. They basically did a study into the different, like they're basically like, hey, them putting this into it should be affecting. They're saying, oh, why people get cancer, why people get Alzheimer's, why so many fucking kids get autism as well. And they're saying like it's all forms of different impacts that are being felt, and it's like it's been in no one's best interest to look into these things. But then, you know, they did studies on it. It's like, oh, so it's affecting this, and they said it's funny because you had it coming out recently. The gut, in your gut, the bacteria in your gut, that affects like your mind, that affects all kinds of shit. So then that's what they're realizing, it's destroyed how certain bacteria in your gut and certain things that were meant to happen. Then like the whole relationship broken down, and then that results in like people getting all forms of diseases. And also it's like, yeah, this is it's basic, you know, real simple things, because it was understood through the Dust Bowl. Because after a while, it's just like, oh, so you've basically destroyed it to the point where there's nothing left. It's done. There's nothing to be gained from it. So there's a reason why these things were done. But Esau, because he's got his artificial methods, and that's how he gets down. That's why he's destroying the earth. The trees are going to be screaming out in joy when this guy's done away with. Because they're being oppressed. That's what they're talking about. Oh, and almost at the point where it's going to be unrepairable. Because you're destroying the earth, man. All these things that Esau's done, it's like he's using cheat codes. But okay, you're using cheat codes to get there, using shortcuts, you know. But then it's like, okay, in the end, what's the long-term impacts? And that's a lot of things. Remember when, bro, it's like even smoking. Man used to say that, oh, smoking's actually good for you. All doctors smoke. You should smoke. I'm like, man, Esau's a lying piece of shit. And he has been from day. That's really the real. That's the thing is Esau's been the liar. I read it earlier. You of your father the devil. And the lust of your father you will do. It was a lie from the beginning. And what it bode not on the truth. Like that's that's the man you're dealing with. That's why it's like at any point